A dystopia, stemming from ancient Greek words meaning bad place, is a theoretical society characterized by its unfavorable and often frightening nature. It is generally considered to be the opposite of a utopia, a term devised by Sir Thomas More to describe a model society virtually free of crime, poverty, and violence. However, this simplistic binary can be misleading as elements of both can be found in each. Dystopias are usually dominated by fear, oppressive regimes, environmental calamities, or additional aspects symptomatic of societal decay. They often feature total dominance over citizens through propaganda or suppression of independent thought, the pursuit of impossible goals, eradication of individuality, and extreme enforcement of conformity. Although these elements might overlap with post-apocalyptic literature, a dystopia is a distinct genre, and a disagreeable society doesn't explicitly equate to a dystopia. Dystopias can be found across numerous fictional works and artistic depictions, particularly in future set narratives. Notable examples include George Orwell's 1984, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. These dystopian settings are frequently utilized to reflect upon various societal aspects, including politics, economics, religion, psychology, ethics, science, or technology. Dystopia, the first recorded usage of the term dystopia, dates back to 1747 and was used as an antonym for utopia by John Stuart Mill in a parliamentary speech in 1868, where he critiqued the government's policy on Ireland. However, the term cacotopia or cacotopia had been proposed by Jeremy Bentham in 1818 as a description of the worst kind of government. Over time, dystopia has become the preferred term, though Anthony Burgess, author of A Clockwork Orange, suggested that casotopia was better suited for Orwell's 1984 as it sounded more direct. The narrative here leans towards a psychological understanding, correlating the essence of fear with tyrannical regimes, a concept derived from the annals of political theory. Group psychology serves as a tool to comprehend the link between utopia and dystopia. Andrew Norton Schwarzbard observes that Dante's Inferno, composed long before the idea of dystopia emerged, encompasses several elements characteristic of the genre. The setting, though religious, resonates with many modern dystopian themes, usually based on a secular future. Echoing the same sentiment, Vicente Angelotti suggests that George Orwell's iconic phrase, "a boot stamping on a human face, forever," effectively describes the situation of the inhabitants in Dante's hell. On similar lines, Dante's infamous phrase, "abandon all hope, ye who enter here," could be appropriately displayed at the entrance of Orwell's Ministry of Love, in particular, its infamous Room 101. By nature, dystopias are reflective of existing social and political realities, extrapolating the worst-case scenarios as cautionary tales advocating for essential societal changes. Invariably, dystopian narratives mirror the anxieties and apprehensions of their society. They often depict citizens living in a dehumanized state, under constant surveillance or fearing the outside world. In the movie, What Happened to Monday?, the protagonists jeopardize their lives, each taking turns to step out into an outside world restricted by a one-child policy in a dystopian future. In his 1967 study, Frank Kermode proposed that failed religious prophecies resulted in a shift in society's approach to this deep-seated mode. Christopher Schmidt pointed out that while the world crumbles for future generations, humanity chooses to watch this catastrophe as passive entertainment. The decade of 2010 saw a rise in dystopian literature and films aimed at young adults. Observations have been made suggesting it is easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. Cultural critic Mark Fisher used this phrase to convey his notion of capitalist realism, the increasingly prevalent belief that not only is capitalism the only feasible political and economic system, but envisioning a viable alternative to it now seems impossible. Fisher uses this as the titular opening of his book's Capitalist Realism, Is There No Alternative?, where he references dystopian pieces such as Children of Men, originally a novel by P.D. James, citing that it illustrates the slow cancellation of the futures. The narrative frames of dystopian fiction such as Seize, The Confederate States of America, Underground Airlines by Ben Winters, Pavane by Keith Roberts, and When the Sleeper Wakes by G. Wells, typically depict societies overrun by tyrannical governments or oppressive regimes. These novels often draw clear lines between utopias or perfect societies whose political constructs lead to prosperity, and dystopias, whose initially utopian ideologies spiral into societal misery due to some critical flawed dystopian narratives, commonly center on cruel and indifferent ruling classes or brutal, iron-fisted governments, often led by fascist or communist dictatorships. Dystopia inspired novels like We, Parable of the Sower, Darkness at Noon, 1984, Brave New World, The Handmaid's Tale, The Hunger Games, Divergent and Fahrenheit 451, and films such as Metropolis, Brazil, Battle Royale FAC. Frequently asked questions, Soylent Green, The Purge, Election Year, Logan's Run, and The Running Man typically feature protagonists who resist against the societal norms. The dystopian narrative even extends to Jules Verne's The Begum's Millions, which describes Stahlstadt, an enormous industrial complex producing weapons of mass destruction under the iron grip of the dictatorial prophet Schulze, who dreams of world conquest. The economic structure within these dystopian societies often plays a critical role in the articulation of oppression. For instance, some narratives contrast the outcomes of planned economies against those of free market economies, as seen in Ayn Rand's Anthem and Henry Kuttner's The Iron Standard. In Norman Jewison's Rollerball, this economic conflict also plays out other dystopias, like in 1984 depicts societies dominated by black markets, scarce resources, or state-controlled economies. Various literary works depict a world dominated by extensive privatization and corporatism, the manifestations of unchecked capitalism where large, unaccountable corporations replace the government, manipulating policy-making and decision-making processes. This theme can be observed in literary works such as Jennifer Government, Oryx, and Crake in movies like Alien, Avatar, RoboCop, Visioneers, Idiocracy, Soylent Green, Wall-E, and Rollerball. The concept of corporate republics is a recurrent theme in the cyberpunk genre, prominent in works like Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson and The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, the latter serving as the inspiration for the film Blade Runner. Dystopian fiction often brings into focus the stark contrast between the opulence of the ruling class and the bleak existence of the laboring masses. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World paints a picture of a society with a prenatally determined class system. Alphas, betas, gammas, deltas, and epsilons, with the lower classes subjected to reduced cognitive functions and conditioning to accept their lot in life outside the societal framework lot. Human settlements described as savages by the world government. George Orwell's 1984 depicts a rigid tiered society with the elite inner party, the sneak-privileged outer party, and the working-class proles making up the majority of the population yet possessing few rights. Herbert W. Frankie's Ypsilon Minus portrays a society divided into alphabetically grade clusters. Similarly, Elysium illustrates an earthly population subjected to poverty, exploitation, and police brutality, while the wealthy leads a life of luxury and space with access to advanced healthcare technologies. The futurist society described in H.G. Wells' The Time Machine presents a society where the working class is confined to underground tunnels, while the wealthy thrive in an idyllic surface setting. However, over time, the roles are reversed, leading to the degeneration of the wealthy and rise of the cannibalistic Morlocks. In some dystopias, like Brave New World and Fahrenheit 451, the family unit is abolished and seen as an obscene concept, especially in a world where reproduction is artificial. This is evident where in We, a pregnant woman from one state is considered rebellious. Such dystopias underline the grim consequences of unchecked power and the suppression of basic human rights. In the exploration of dystopian themes, Yevgeny Zamyatin's novel We, first released in 1921, depicts a society where individuals are stripped of their identities and are only assigned numbers. This chilling feature can also be seen in sundry unrelated dystopian works such as Dix 1138. In certain dystopian narratives like Kurt Vonnegut's Harrison Bergeron, society actively oppresses personal excellence and competence in pursuit of a radically equal society. Numerous dystopias are characterized by pervasive violence, whether it is manifested in wars like in A Clockwork Orange, Battle Royale, The Running Man, The Hunger Games, Divergent, and The Purge, or in the forms of urban crimes committed by mostly youthful gang. Dystopian fiction often showcases urban settings, while the characters are systematically alienated from nature. This disconnect with nature is particularly evident in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, whereas C.S. Lewis's That Hideous Strength typifies dystopias, where scientific advancement under the auspices of the government is channeled towards dominating nature and eradicating natural human instinct. In Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, the lower classes are programmed to fear nature while simultaneously exploiting it for economic purposes. Lois Lowry's The Giver delineates a society where the quest for utopia leads to climatic control and the gradual extinction of wildlife. Forster's The Machine Stops illustrates an environment so drastically altered that human habitation is restricted to underground bunkers due to atmospheric contamination. Pollution rendering nature inhabitable is a recurring theme in several dystopian narratives, most notably in The Matrix, RoboCop, Wall, April, and The Extraordinary World. And Soylent Green, as well as video games like Half-Life 2. A few green dystopias, such as Michael Carson's The Punishment of Luxury and Russell Hoban's Ridley Walker, depict post-apocalyptic worlds where technology has reverted to primitive levels. A pertinent theme in dystopian literature is the critique of utopian hopes pinned on technology, which instead of enhancing human life, amplifies human flaws. The intrusiveness of technology into our lives is leading to a marked decay in interpersonal communication. The allure of virtual spaces is dampening our recognition of the importance of physical, real-time interaction. Instead, we are increasingly turning towards technological means for communication. Hierarchies are fortified by technological advances which concentrate knowledge and magnify disparities in power and wealth, breaching our privacy and leaving us at the mercy of AI and machines. According to Douglas Rushkoff, a staunch believer in the utopian power of technology, professional designers have obscured and complicated computer systems, driving us to rely heavily on unimaginable software systems. Furthermore, technology has taken a regressive turn, spiraling into a realm where real-life translators are robbed of their recognition and financial reward, thanks to the mushrooming industry of electronic translation services. Technology's charming allure of efficiency and multiple choices does more harm than good, creating stress, eradicating jobs, and nurturing a materialistic approach to life. Technological critic James Gleick, in his piece Pressed, "Oh Change, You Change Oh," criticizes technology for developing solutions for problems it initially created. He takes a dig at the remote control, claiming its only achievement is to increase the viewer's distraction. He argues that new technologies either resolve the issues that sprung from old technologies or generate new dilemmas. He further illustrates this using examples from distinct cultures. Before the creation of the remote control, Indonesians and Nepalese Sherpas, despite their repeated meals and entertainment, were perfectly content. He attests that the invention of the remote control led to dissatisfaction and laziness, therefore creating additional issues. Technological advancements are also doing considerable harm to the environment and, consequently, our health. The shift from community to business and replacing humans with stories online is disintegrating communication. In terms of popular culture, dystopian themes are common in TV shows, video games, anime, and manga series such as The Hunger Games, Titanfall, and Zoom 100. Bucket List of the Dead. These portray a bleak future, marked by a dysfunctional society where technology rules and destroys.